Nobody expects Dash Aggro, so I think it's a good option. Today I don't have only one, but I have two Dash Aggro deck techs. The second one is from the lesson learned from the first one. The first list I want to talk about was a deck list that was given to me by Alien Ninja 88 in my Discord. If you want to join my Discord, here is the link. And I brought this decklist to a positive record to a PQ I played last weekend, barely missing top 8s on breakers. I did beat Kano on turn 3, I did beat Viserai, and I beat the Mirror. I lost to a close one to Starvo, and to a not really close one to Icelexi. This is a crazy deck list. We are playing 75 cards in the main deck, no sideboard, and as I said, Alien Ninja 88 gave me the deck list. I made a couple of changes and brought it to the PQ. Let's check out the deck. So even though this is an aggro list, I decided to go for the pistol instead of playing the shotgun. I feel like the pistol is more efficient and shotgun is kind of awkward. The equipment is a default one. We are playing with Skull Cap, Accelerator, Heart, and Gauntlet. You can say since you're playing aggro, you could play with Visitronic Model, which you can. If you don't have Skull Cap, Visitronic Model is also an option. But for the PQ, I did not play with Visitronic Model, but I just play with the Skull Cap. As far as items, I was not playing too many items. I played mainly two items starting with. I had an induction chamber if we were going first, and a Teklo pounder if we were going second. Ideally with this deck list you want to go second, which is quite good because people don't expect Dash aggro that much, and usually they don't want to put you in the play if you're playing Dash, so you want to go second and play with Teklo pounder. None of my opponents put me on the play, which was good for the deck. Then other items that you want to play is I just played 2 Teklo core that helps you get some resources in the mid game, and Spark of Genius we played the 3. Depending on the situation you want to get one of the other items or Teklo core, but this is like the item suite that I played in this deck list. Also with this version you don't need many induction chambers, just because you can have the high octanes that we're playing 3 of to get action point and shoot with the pistol several times. So the main keyword of course is the boost. So let's see all the cards that we have with boost in our deck. We have the full 9 zipper hits. This is the best attack for 1 in our deck. Then we have of course another one with the high speed impacts. This is less efficient but makes your opponent block, because then your next attack get dominate, and sometimes they don't fully block it or don't respect, and you can follow up with some of the big boost cards. Then for the expensive boost cards we have the Throttle. As usual we play all the full Throttle. It's really good attack and it's good with our gloves, because we have the Goliath Gauntlet as our glove, and we don't have too many targets for the Goliath Gauntlets, but they're good. We have Throttle, and then we have some boost payoffs that we will see in a bit. Other boost card, of course, we have the 0 to 60. This is the cheapest and powerful core of Dash, so we're playing all the 9 to 0 to 60s. And then new addition from Everfest, we have T-Bone. I'm playing only 8 T-Bones. I decided to cut a yellow one just because on how the deck was configured. And T-Bone is really good if you can play a couple of them. And then you finish the combat chain with magnetic shockwaves that force your opponent to block with equipment. So you can easily pick off some equipment. I had a turn 1 against Viserai that I went T-Bone into T-Bone into the shockwave, and I picked up all of their equipment. The equipment package is shown, so now let's see a couple of cards to boost our damage, or increase in this case, more than boost. We have Combustible Courier, which is a 4 attack for 2, and if it hits, the next attack you boost this combat chain at +3, which is quite good. You can use Goliath Gauntlets to attack this for 6 if you want. Then to push in some more damage, we have a Pedal to the Metal Red, that if it hits, your next attack this turn gets Dominate. The last damage increase spell is the Rotary Ram, new addition from Everfest. It rarely happens the second clause that if you boosted, you put it to the bottom of your deck, just because our attacks care about how many times you boosted this combat chain. So you rarely break the chain, but if you have to, you can play this afterwards, depending on what spells your hand configuration there is. Also, one thing to note is that the Teklo Foundry Heart breaks the chain when you activate it, so be aware of that and plan your turn ahead. For payoff for having boosted, we have Overblast. We are playing 6 Overblasts, the red and the blues. That it gets plus X, where X is the number of times you boosted this combat chain. Also, at the attack for 2 for 5, if you have not boosted, it's pretty decent. Not the best as far as comparison with other decks, but pretty decent. And the last card in our deck, a card from Everfest, is the Payload. That if you boosted, Payload gets Dominate, which is good to finish out your combat chain and have a couple of damage leak through. So this was like the 75 cards, like really big deck that I played mainly for the memes for fun, but actually turned out to be decent and people don't expect it. But now let's jump over and see the second deck. After ever playing with this 75 cards main deck, no cyber deck, I noticed that some of the previously good matchups for Dash, for example Ice Lexi, became almost unwinnable. Furthermore, the current format is quite fast and you will not fatigue, so you don't need all the 75 cards to boost in the main deck. And for this reason, we will be running a 60 cards aggro deck in the main deck and have a sideboard to switch to control. It rarely happens that you have to switch to control, because with this configuration you can raise most of the decks quite fairly, but in the disruptive matchups you probably want to side in to control. On top of my head, the matchups that you want to switch to play control are Ice Lexi and Chain. But let's check out the second deck. So our control package is going to be done with some defense reactions. We're gonna play the best one in the game, probably in Sing Below. We're going to have Fate for Scenes, good, and also are going to play the red Unmovables. This is gonna give us some defense. Then if you want to play control, you want to disrupt the opponent arsenal, and for that reason we are going to play a Command and Conquers. Also, just to mention, the deck list will be down in the description if you want to check it out. And then for the last 15 cards, since you're moving to control, you need a way to output more damage. For that reason, we have an Induction Chamber, a Plasma Purifier, and then I think I'm gonna bring back the Visitronic Mother Eye. So this is what we bring in. Let me put that in a better order. So in order to make space for these 15 cards, we need to cut 15 cards from our deck. And although I have not tested, I think I theory crafted which 12 cards I want to cut, and then you have an option on the last one depending on your preference. So we are going to cut the High Speed Impact yellow. We are going to cut the Throttle yellow. We are going to cut the Rotary Run because it doesn't boost. Still like a buff, but I feel like this can be cut. And then after this 9, you need to cut 6 more and grab 6 from either Combustible Courier, Payload, or Pedal to the Metal. I think going forward I want to play with payloads, so payloads go back to the deck, and we're going to cut the Pedal to the Metal and Combustible Courier. You can also cut the red High Speed Impact if you want. Still a bit more testing to be done for deciding which are the last cards to be remaining in the deck. But this is what I like, and now we need to figure out which cards to cut from the main deck once you want to switch to control. So let's check out the sideboarding. If you want to switch to control, you probably can cut some of the red cards, because your main goal is to surviving and finishing up with the chamber pistol combo. For this reason, I think we need to cut some of the items. You don't need to tackle a pounder anymore, and probably you don't need to tackle a core either. Also, just notice this is just for wizards, so if we set into control, this doesn't go in. We have only 14 cards to bring in, so we are going to cut the red High Speed Impact, probably the red Throttle, the red Overblasts, and this brings us to 12. We need 2 more cards. I will probably cut 2 payloads. If you play against Ice Lexi, maybe you want to cut 1 more payload and keep the Teclo core in. That is more or less our sideboard if I switch to control. I hope you enjoyed this Dash Aggro deck tech, and in the next week I will bring you a Dash Blitz deck that you can play in your skirmishes. Probably not recommended, but if you want to have some fun with boosting, please check it out. With that said, thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you next time.